This is my favorite revenge story of the year. I don't want to put up with you anymore. Do you know how much ridicule I suffered to keep this marriage working? I deserve someone better. Let's end this broken marriage, Henry's wife said. Henry Brown, Emily Miller's husband, had always been subject to disdain from the Miller family due to his poor financial ability and his lack of notable achievements. He was regarded as a scum and deadbeat husband by everyone. However, when Henry Brown was left for dead by those who wanted to relive themselves of the stain Henry Brown's name caused them, he received a second chance at survival by a god who granted him special abilities. Back to avenge those who killed him, Henry Brown used his exceptional abilities to climb to the top where he won't be looked down on by anyone. Henry vowed to make his wife and the Miller's family crawl on their knees, begging him. Watch as he rise to the top to dominate the whole world. Chapter name. Rare chances. Henry Brown sat on the hospital's bed, anxiously going through the phone numbers. He kept thinking back to what the doctor had said. Mr. Brown, I'm sorry to tell you that your mother is in the final stage of cancer. The cost of chemotherapy is about $50,000. You can go and pay the fee, and we can arrange the treatment here.
$82,000?
How did he figure out such a large charge? His father had vanished when he was 5 years old, leaving behind a massive debt. Nobody was aware of his whereabouts. The mother and kid had been living on the streets for years after their creditors had stolen their residence. His mother had never married again because she feared he would be mistreated. He had intended to rely solely on himself to work hard and provide his mother with a secure and contented life after graduating. But years of overwork led to cancer, which sent his mother into the hospital. He had gone to every lending company in order to address his mother's ailment. But the amount of money he could borrow was, for a young man who had just graduated and was still without a job, pennies in the ocean. He was approaching people to borrow money when Emily Miller's, a classmate from university, approached him. She would pay him a certain amount of money in exchange for his consent to marry into her family. Since Emily's family was well off, he nodded without hesitation. What did a man's life have in comparison to his mother's? Henry took a $10,000 job working as a servant in Emily's home, sacrificing his dignity in the process. But in the span of a single glance, these $20,000 were used for medical expenses. All he had left was a dying phone and no way back home. No, I can't give up. My mother got cancer because of me. I can't give up just like that. Henry scrolled to a number, his eyes reddening as he remembered his mother's affection for him after all these years. It was the number of his uncle. Uncle, it's Henry. I'm really sorry to disturb you. My mother is suffering from a disease and is in the hospital. She needs to borrow some money for her treatment. Child, you've grown up and become independent. You should think of a way to deal with this kind of thing. Uncle, I don't have a choice. Hello? Henry growled after his second uncle hung up. Damn it! When Henry's other friends and family learned that he was trying to borrow money, they all sounded shocked and hung up without even offering an explanation. They provided a great deal of assistance to friends and family when their father was still living and things were better for the family. They had all turned away from them now. It was quite disheartening. Henry's phone started to ring at that very time. There was only enough money on his phone to cover one call. Henry was shaking as he spoke to his wife Emily, who was on her way to the U.S. He truly didn't want to touch Emily's bad side, if it weren't for the fact that he was in a scenario where it could have been life or death. Henry spoke quickly as he dialed her contact. Emily, can you lend me $50,000? My mother, borrowing money again? Can't you just go and find a job? Emily abruptly ended the call. Hello? Hello? Henry wanted to smash the phone in his palm as he heard the sound of the call being hung up. He would surely hunt for a nice job if he didn't have to spend time caring for his mother. Henry ran all the way to a mall because he was unwilling to give up. Rebecca Karen, his ex-girlfriend, owns this mall. I'm looking for Ms. Rebecca. I'm her friend. The employees were accustomed to seeing large crowds of people arrive in search of the boss. She sent him to the room located at the left wing of the mall. Henry knocked on the door as he approached it. He pulled open the half-closed door. For 2 seconds, he was stunned. The room was disorganized. with dirty tissues and garments scattered all over the floor. Rebecca Karen, his ex-girlfriend, was sitting on a man's body right now, wildly rocking her body. The man took up the tissue box next to him and flung it at Henry's face. "Damn it, you piece of shit. Who gave you the guts to come in?" The man said. Rebecca stopped and turned around right away. She was so surprised to see it was Henry. "What are you doing here? Don't you even have basic manners?" Henry was ashamed and furious at the same time, but he was unable to show any emotions because his mother was still in the hospital receiving treatment. He slightly stammered as he said, "Rebecca, I'm really sorry, but my mother is currently in the hospital. I hope you can lend me $50,000? I'll pay you back as soon as I can." "Oh my God, Henry, do you know what you're saying?" Rebecca's tone came out as a shock at Henry's request. "I'm sorry, I really don't have a choice." Rebecca gave Henry a cold stare for some moment. "We've already broken up. Even if we were together, I would not lend you money. Go away and don't disturb us." She turned to kiss the man underneath her while she murmured at the same moment, "Dear, don't bother about Henry. He's a scum." However, Jacob Anderson, the man beneath Rebecca, quickly cut in. "I can lend you some money." Henry's gaze brightened. "If you can film me making love with your ex-girlfriend, I can lend you some money if I'm happy," Jacob replied, passing him the phone on the table. "All right," Henry said as he approached and thoughtlessly took up Jacob's phone. Jacob sarcastically exclaimed, "Kneel down and film us." Henry dropped to his knees without thinking. He felt like a despicable wandering puppy on the street, wagging its tail and pleading for forgiveness at this very moment. But he put up with it for his mother. Gazing down at him, Jacob stood up, scooped up Rebecca, and gave her a forceful shove on the bed. Rebecca's face was a little red, but she didn't mind that her ex-boyfriend Henry was recording on the side. "Ah, my dear, you're so bad." She seemed to be taking pleasure in this. Henry watched the two of them passionately making love while his hands trembled. Even though Jacob was thrilled, he didn't forget to keep embarrassing Henry. "Kid, if I knew you were such a coward, I would have let you shoot when you two were together." What do you mean?" Henry questioned, looking surprised. Jacob seemed astonished, but he wasn't. "Ha ha ha ha. My dear, didn't you tell him that we've always been lovers?" Jacob asked Rebecca. "Ah, of course I didn't. I didn't tell him. He still thinks that my first time was with him." Henry's heart felt like it was being stabbed by a sharp dagger after hearing his ex-girlfriend's words. Henry's eyes glowed with rage as his body shook. But all he could do for the $50,000 was to pass through this humiliation. "Ah!" As they reached the peak, the two of them let out an enthusiastic noise. "I'm done." Shakily, Henry put down the phone. "Give me the money." Jacob sat back on the couch and took his time lighting a cigarette. Upon viewing the footage captured on his phone, he uttered in a derogatory phrase, "What money? I'm not happy with your rubbish filming, so I don't have money. You can get lost now." Henry growled. "Are you playing with me?" he said with fury. "You coward, so what if I played you?" "Get lost." Jacob mocked Henry. Henry wanted to skin Jacob alive, so he clenched his hands and looked at him. "Kid, didn't you hear me? Do you want to die?" Jacob yelled, lunging toward Henry. Henry's eyes glinted coldly as he crushed the glass bottle on Jacob's head after grabbing it off the table. Jacob's skull gushed fresh blood, painting the sofa in red. Henry was done worrying since he had no money and his mother was too old to be saved. Rebecca's face grew pale with fear. "Jacob's father, Anderson, is the boss of a local gang. How dare you hit him?" she cried, pointing at Henry, terrified. "My mother can't be saved," Henry said to Rebecca. "What's there to be afraid of if I'm alone? I'm a man too. I have my dignity." Jacob had blood all over him. With a fierce grimace, he pulled a black revolver from beneath his pillow and let out a cry. "Go to hell." Unconsciously glancing over, Henry saw a black muzzle aimed directly at his body. Whoosh! There was a loud bang, and the bullet entered Henry's chest, spilling out blood as the bullet pierced his skin. Henry stumbled into a puddle of blood, his eyes full of shock, grief, rage, and refusal. Lauren's face went pale with fear. "Oh my God! Did you kill him?" She was materialistic, but she had never seen anything so gory. "He's just a piece of trash. If he's dead, then so be it. I'll arrange for someone to throw him into the sea." "All right, my baby, let's go take a bath." Rebecca was in a panic, so Jacob brought her into the restroom. After a little discussion, they decided to throw Henry's limp body away. The both of them had hurried over and shoved Henry's body into a sack before throwing it into a van. They sped to the shore far away from the city, threw Henry's body bag into the ocean, and drove quickly back. The bag quickly submerged in the chilly ocean. Nobody saw them. Henry's jade jewelry he always wore around his neck and the deep ocean both radiated a stunning blue light simultaneously. Henry's spirit was about to dissolve entirely when a strong energy suddenly emerged from the ocean, encircling him closely. The energy united his body and soul. Under this force, the bullet in his chest likewise crumbled to powder, and the wound he sustained started to heal. "You are one out of the few fated ones who only appear every 5,000 years. You must accept the inheritance of the son of the moon god, the god of great medical abilities, and become a genius in this field." A lovely voice abruptly boomed in Henry's ears while he was still in amazement. Chapter name. Stronger than yesterday, his forehead was marked by a mark that looked like a serpent coiling around a scepter as a strong force accumulated there. For a brief moment, something changed inside him. He was still breathing. He was granted a second chance. Henry later found himself resting on the beach when he opened his eyes once more. "Oh my God! What actually happened? I'm supposed to be dead. Is this actually real?" He felt the mark on his head. He then turned his gaze to his chest. Even though his body had healed and there was no visible scar, his clothing was still torn. And he could definitely feel the residual holy energy in his body. The overwhelming sensation was beyond words. It was too late to worry too much. He raced to the hospital because his mother was still there. He appeared to be a ghost to onlookers at this point. He ran like he was about to lose something precious. "Oh my God! What kind of terrifying thing is this? He looks like a madman." Some of the onlookers said Henry was blind to the difference in their looks. He just wanted to get moving. It was still possible to save his mother. He didn't sweat on the way. Everything appeared so easygoing. He reached his mother's ward in a hurry. He glanced at Josephine Brown, his comatose mother. Grabbing her hand, Henry instantly focused his mind and used his divine power to examine his mother's physique. Based on what he remembered, his mother's physical state soon became apparent to him. Overwork and numerous undiagnosed illnesses were the root causes of his mother's health issues. Her intestines were not functioning regularly due to severe damage to her liver and tumors and ulcers in her stomach. "Heal them all," Henry softly concluded his mantra, and a moment later, a blue light flickered from his mark. Josephine was laying on the hospital bed when a soft force enveloped her and swiftly removed the illness from her body. She started coughing. The blue light vanished soon when his mother coughed, and the blue light gradually faded. "I think I had a dream." Josephine sat up and opened her eyes. She was surprised to discover that she was in a better frame of mind than when she was in her 20s and that she had never been so comfortable. Henry hesitantly inquired, "Mom, how are you feeling?" "I'm feeling great, my dear son. What happened? Why do I suddenly feel better?" "Mother, this might be a blessing from God." Henry did not address the legacy of the healing abilities since he could not come up with an explanation. This was, after all, an anomaly that defied scientific understanding. Josephine was used to a hard life, and her frugal nature was already ingrained in her. "Perhaps so. Since I've recovered, let's get out of the hospital soon. The daily expenses here are quite high." "Mom, don't worry. Let's go for a checkup first." Henry was concerned even though his mother was doing well. The hospital was enraged upon learning the examination's results. The attending physician for Josephine saw the results and leaped to her feet. "Oh my God! I can't believe it. This is a miracle. Mr. Brown, your mother is really blessed by God. She recovered in just one day." From the examination report, Your mother is not just cancer-free, but extremely healthy as well. It's a miracle, the other physicians exclaimed with excitement as well. Henry left the director's office and took care of the discharge processes. It's all thanks to the doctor's treatment that my mother is well, he said, knowing full well what happened. An employee ran out to him as he was ready to sign the discharge papers. Mr. Brown, please wait a moment. I still have to process your refund. A refund? Henry thought he could have misheard. How could there be a refund when it was already good enough that he owed the hospital nothing? Yes, the payment was transferred to us half an hour ago. It was paid by a lady named Emily Millers. Is it actually Emily? Henry exclaimed, shocked and stunned. Even though Emily had not been kind to him, he was still incredibly appreciative of all that she had done behind his back. Henry helped his mom to the door, where he waited for a vehicle. 5 black cars sped in and immediately stopped, halting before Josephine's wheelchair. Without delay, Henry moved forward and embraced his mother. His mother might have needed to visit the hospital once more if he had been any slower. Hey, what are you guys doing? Henry said with anger. Henry felt Josephine tug his arm. Henry, calm down. I'm fine. We'd better not cause any trouble. At this point, almost a dozen strong men stepped out of the vehicle. On their shoulders, they were all tattooed with the same green skull logo. Henry knew what the symbol meant. It represented the members of the Shark Loan who Henry had previously borrowed money from. Henry was seized by the collar by a burly man who stepped forward. You piece of trash. How quick are you to forget you came to our office to borrow money few months ago? Months ago, Henry had gone and borrowed a huge amount of money from the loan shark in order to buy drugs for his mother since no one was willing to give him any money. And now they were back to collect it and Henry doesn't have any money to repay the loan he took. Henry remained calm. He gave the hefty man holding him a chilly glare. Josephine went forward quickly and gave the strong man a hug around his arm. Sir, it's our fault. I apologize. Please, how much is the money? We'll pay back. The money is $500,000. But since it has been a month, the interest has increased to $1 million, the man said. Josephine and Henry became shocked. How could they add half of the money he borrowed as interest when it was barely a month? The amount was unfair. Please, sir, it's unfair. We don't have such amount. It will be good if you reduce the interest so that we can pay it. Josephine pleaded. With a strong swing of his arm, the burly man said, You're an old hag who's like a piece of trash. Do you think I have the time to reduce the interest because you and your wretched son can't pay the amount? Who do you think you are? Get lost. After making the statement, the burly man grabbed Josephine's wheelchair and threw it out. Chapter name: Godlike Abilities. Mom, Henry said, shoving the strong man aside and grabbing his mom. Today, I'm going to disgrace you and make you kneel in front of the hospital, the Shark Loan members angrily exclaimed. Then let's see whose fist is harder. Henry would never have lowered his head or compromised his dignity for the benefit of a nasty person if he hadn't been endowed with heavenly power. Who dares to put up a fight with the Shark Loan members? Do you want to die? At this point, the head of the Shark Loan owner, Lucas, stepped out of a car wearing sunglasses. Rebecca was there too. Has she found another rich man quickly and dumped Jacob? Such a shameful whore. It appears that the Wayne family were the owners of the Shark Loan business where Henry came to borrow money from. Henry never knew that the Lucas family owned the business, neither was he aware that the head of the Shark Loan was Jacob. Lucas had begged his father for the opportunity to run the business so he'll be able to use it and show his worth. Not knowing Jacob was planning to use the business to boast his low image and personality. Lucas removed his sunglasses as he stood in the middle of the throng and was startled to see Henry. Rubbing his eyes in disbelief, Lucas exclaimed, How is this possible? Ah! Rebecca let out a moan and cowered behind Jacob. What are you doing here? You? She questioned with a quivering voice. Shocked to see me when I'm supposed to be at the bottom of the sea? Henry questioned with a cold tone. Henry, you roach, you sure have a good life. Are you waiting to continue serving me? Since you're still alive, it must be God's arrangement. How about this? I can pay you to be cleaning my shoes as a way to repay your loan. How about it? Ha ha. Lucas pulled Rebecca over and grasped her large chest after saying that. Please don't beat my son. I promise we'll pay you back. I know the Wayne family are good people. Please give us a chance. Maybe by next month, we'll pay back the loan. Josephine responded with a hint of nervousness. You're just a poor thing. How dare you utter my family name from your poor mouth? Old Smelly had asking me to give them another month to repay the loan when your son is a scum who couldn't get a good job? All your son know how to do is borrow and beg. No wonder Rebecca left him for me. What a joke, Lucas said with scorn. The others chuckled as well. Sure, I can clean your shoes, but make sure the shoe belonged to your pathetic father who failed in his responsibility to raise a weak son who couldn't prove his worth, but rather using the family business for his own benefits, sleeping with various women and getting drunk with alcohol. If it's your father's shoe, then I'll gladly apply. Henry's eyes were icy when he answered. Lucas was infuriated to learn that Henry had dared to embarrass him. You piece of scum. If someone can kill you the first time, I can kill you a second time. He pulled out his firearm and aimed it at Henry. Don't! Josephine angrily exclaimed. Lucas heard a gunshot, and his eyesight went blurry. He'd missed his shot, and Henry was nowhere to be seen. The next instant, Lucas noticed Henry standing in front of him. Henry reached up and grabbed him around the neck with his right hand. The firearm he was holding dropped to the floor. Damn it! What are you trying to do? Quickly put me down. Lucas was enraged as well as astonished. He continued to kick Henry, but the other person remained in place. What the hell? Henry, do you know what you are doing? I advise you to let go of him. He's not someone you can provoke. You even borrowed money from them, and now you're putting up a fight. Rebecca yelled in a hurry as she noticed this. Rebecca supported the Loan Shark members because Jacob was rich. She loved rich men and won't think twice on jumping at their feet. Now she dumped Jacob and started dating Lucas when he discovered how careless Lucas spent his father's money. She wanted to eat his money. Upon observing Henry's persistent grip on him and his inability to release himself, Lucas angrily insulted Henry. You piece of trash. You're always a coward. Put me down now. Then beg me for mercy while I cut out your tongue and feed it to my dogs. Don't try to be brave. Lucas is not someone you can mess with. Kneel down and apologize. Just try and forget about and don't try to find me again. I have seen someone who can take better care of me, Rebecca said again, fearing that Henry might act rashly and harm Lucas, but Henry was not the Henry of yesterday anymore. Upon hearing Rebecca's derogatory remarks, he threw Lucas' fragile frame straight onto her. They both fell at the same time and screamed repeatedly. The nearby observers were all in disbelief when they observed this scene. They were surprised by Henry's strength. With a simple swing, he was able to not only effortlessly lift an adult, but also propel him a considerable distance. But the thing that startled them the most was how powerful and well-known the Wayne family was. Henry was bold enough to touch the Waynes. Was he not wary about retaliation? This was not something that could be solved with a little brute force. Only Josephine was scared half to death at this point. Her son daring to touch Lucas had never occurred to her. There was no doubt that the other party would exact revenge later on. Then what ought she to do? Henry was indifferent to the opinions of others. He could see the hate in Lucas' eyes and knew that he would exact the harshest kind of retribution. He approached and put his hand on his shoulder. He focused his thoughts and summoned his heavenly might. A sequence of details emerged in Henry's thoughts. Judging by his health status, Lucas had only few months left to live. Henry thought that killing him might just invite more trouble. Henry held Lucas' chin and gave him a heavy blow, removing 6 of his teeth in the process. Leaving the unconscious Lucas on the floor, Henry helped his mother up her feet. We need to leave now before others are alerted. Let's get out of here now, Henry said as they both